Hey, you want to know how your role directly impacts your design mindset and how to be successful in every design situation? Well, make sure you watch this entire video all the way through. I'm Zigga, and my job here is to make you the best network designer you can be. Above all else, your mindset is the most important factor in the design process. Let's terminize this. I like to call this your design mindset or a design mindset, which is very, very different than a technology or implementation mindset. A lot of network engineers, architects, and designers in the industry actually design solutions and networks today, but they do not have what I would call a proper design mindset. They are not designing networks for the right reasons. They are making decisions for reasons that do not have a why or do not tie directly back to the business or to the requirements and the constraints and the drivers and outcomes that are within that specific environment, that specific organization. I don't believe this is anyone else's fault. I don't think this is their fault. I was myself in this situation as well years ago. The underlying issue, and this is what we're trying to solve, we are just not taught design and what a design mindset is and how to achieve a design mindset early enough in our careers. For myself included, it was probably closer to when I was about 15 years in the career field versus maybe we should have learned it when we were 5 years in the career field or even in college going through our coursework. We should know, in my opinion, how to design and how to focus your mind on design a lot earlier in our careers. And I think this is an underlying gap in the industry and in our career field because, how can we design a solution if we're not taught how to design, right? This is an underlying issue. And why do we have to wait 10 years to learn how to design? I would suggest that we don't need to set boxes or requirements around learning how to design. We don't need to have 15 years of experience or 10 years of experience to know that we can have a proper design mindset. Your role has a critical impact and effect on your design decisions and your overall design mindset. And specifically what I mean around that is your role within your organization or within your customer base, or if you work at a partner, like a networking partner or what have you, your role is going to potentially allow you to do certain things, but it also could constrain you into its own buckets or own boxes. It can kind of fence you in a little bit. So let's give an example what I mean by that, right? Your role is going to dictate what design tools you have in your toolbox. We talk about having tools in your toolbox. We talk about technology tools, but let's bring it up a level and talk about tools from a design perspective, options that you have. I like to use this example when I'm talking about your role in a design situation. So let me paint this picture real quick. Let's just play this role that you are a network engineer, you're a network architect or network designer, whatever role resonates the best with you. The key is that you work for an enterprise customer, an enterprise environment, and you are designing and speccing out service provider connectivity, specifically maybe MPLS L3 VPN circuits, so that you can connect your kind of like data center location over here to a branch or multiple branch locations over here, right? So the goal at the end of this is that you're going to have a data center and all your branches are going to be able to connect to each other, and potentially you can leverage internet and resources and etc. So you're going to spec out this MPLS service, let's say, from multiple vendors. And let's say you go with a specific vendor where they do not offer any type of QoS markings. In fact, they actually rewrite your QoS DSCP markings as the traffic comes back into your location. So let's watch that flow, right? So you have your data center location here, right? And let's say you have voice traffic as an example. Your voice traffic is going to leave data center 1 or data center, going to go across the cloud area, right? That cloud network. You would have markings on it, DSCP markings, right? And then your provider would have some sort of MPLS experimental bit markings. But then when that traffic, that voice traffic comes back to your, or not comes back, when that voice traffic arrives at the branch location, something's going to happen there, right? And it's going to be dependent on your service provider's QoS tunnel mode, their MPLS QoS tunnel mode. And in this specific situation, I'm just saying that they're going to rewrite your markings. They're going to pretty much say, I don't care about your DSCP markings, and they're just going to get rid of them. What this really happens is that it's actually called MPLS QoS tunnel mode uniform. And that's where the provider will actually kind of rewrite your DSCP markings with their own markings. So as that traffic leaves the SP environment over here into your branch location, you'll lose all of your markings. And so if you're trying to maintain, if your requirement, your goal is to maintain quality of service end to end, what can you do? From a design perspective, right? Not from an implementation perspective. I don't care the command lines, right? That's not what we're talking about here. We're trying to detach from the CLI. Specifically, what I care about is what do we have from a design options perspective when that traffic comes back into that branch location, right? And honestly, the only option we have, because our role is that of a network engineer, network designer, network architect for that enterprise customer, all we really truly can do is rematch that traffic and mark it accordingly. So when it hits that service provider point of presence device and then comes into our branch device, that first device we have over here, we're going to actually have to remark our traffic, rematch it, and say, hey, this is our voice traffic. Let's put the right marking on it. This isn't preferred, right? But this is a limitation or constraint because of our role. It's a pretty big deal, actually. Our role limits what we can do. Well, let's flip this around. I think it makes sense. I think it's very clear what we're talking about here is that your role really does limit your design options. And so your mindset has to shift on what you can do from your role perspective. But let's just re-emphasize this one last time. If we change our role, let's say we have the option of becoming a network engineer, architect, designer on the service provider side of things, that service provider that we found and we hired. Well, now we have more options, right? Now we can do some additional items or different design decisions in the service provider network that can mitigate this issue. And potentially one of the easiest options is just to change the QoS tunnel mode, the MPLS QoS tunnel mode, from uniform to short pipe or pipe, which have different benefits and pros and cons. And then we solve the issue, right? Now we maintain that our original customers, QoS end to end. If they have a requirement for voice or specific applications or whatever it might be, well, now they can ensure they get true end-to-end quality of service across the service provider core. So I think it's extremely simple to see how imperative your role is in the design process. And you have to understand your role and what the limitations allow. And then I would even go a step further and understand what the roles of the other parties are, because then you can kind of help direct them as well as a designer. So if I was on the enterprise side of things, I know what the service provider could do. And I would have those conversations and say, hey, I know I'm not in your environment. Is there any way you could do these things? And they probably would say no. Probably 9 times out of 10 they would say no because it's not part of the contract. But maybe that one time they would do it for me. Your design mindset is extremely critical in the design process. How you view the options and how you have an open mind and think of design, your strategy and your holistic view. And obviously we've talked about the role today. Your specific role has a very large impact on what you can and cannot do from a design perspective. And then that is part of your design mindset. As this example shows today, it's really clear how that role affects or is extremely critical in the process, right? The limiting factors that sometimes happen because of your role, but then also some of the additional design options you get or tools you get because of your role. The takeaway would be to keep having an open mind with all of this, and don't be tethered into something that someone else says. Understand what you could do from a design perspective. Hey, what are my options? Okay, those are my options. Cool. I know I have 5 options or I have 2 options. Which of those options is the best option for the requirements that I'm being given? All right, friends, that's going to wrap up today's show. Hey, I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this little design mindset session today. It was all about your role and how your role affects the options you have when you're talking about networking design or network design. If you have questions, you can always email me at zig@zigbits.tech. No, I was going to say .com, but it's not .com, it's .tech. What else? Oh, yes. And then, of course, you can leave a comment, right? You can leave a comment on the show notes or on YouTube, wherever you are finding this content. Also, if there's something you want us to cover, something specific from a design perspective or technology perspective, let us know. I am open. I have an open mind when it comes to content creation for you. So if there is something that's going to hit the mark, or you're having a problem with something that you want someone to show, well, let us know. Until next time, bye for now.